Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott and in this episode we're going to be looking at the top players to target in Game Week 18 on Sun Dream Team. Hope everyone's had a good Christmas. Sorry this is a late release. The deadline's actually tomorrow. We're recording on Friday. The deadline for Dream Team is 11:30 AM tomorrow on Saturday. So sorry about the quick turnaround time, but I've been enjoying my Christmas, enjoying a bit of a break. But we are back to usual now. So Game Week 18, we have a Premier League single game week for all Premier League sides, but a double game week for both Everton and Crystal Palace. This is the fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk. You can check this out yourself, move the arrows around, find out how many games people have got in a set amount of time. And Game Week 18... the only two teams that double are Everton and Crystal Palace. Now, the reason that is everyone has a Premier League fixture, but that Crystal Palace versus Everton FA Cup fixture falls on a Thursday, which puts it into Game Week 18 rather than Game Week 19. So you could look to capitalise on the double game week for Crystal Palace and Everton, but just be aware they then potentially just have they have a blank in Game Week 19 where that has been moved across. So double game week in 18 for Crystal Palace and Everton, but they blank in 19. So pretty much a single game week for most teams though, but that is an opportunity there. Game Week 19, so FA Cup fixtures for everyone. But then the teams that have double game weeks in Game Week 19 will be Liverpool, Chelsea and Fulham because they have their semi-final first legs of the Carabao Cup. So Liverpool, Chelsea, Fulham. These are three teams that you might want to look at to get extra fixtures out of. Probably not so much Fulham, but Liverpool and Chelsea have a lot of fixtures coming up with those two-leg Carabao Cup semi-finals. So you could look to target them. Game Week 20, it's a Premier League single for most teams again, but then it's the second leg of the Carabao Cup semis. So Liverpool, Chelsea, Fulham get their second fixture, but then there also could be midweek FA Cup replays put into that. So they're not on the fixture ticker on FS Stuff at the moment, but if any of these FA Cup fixtures on Game Week 19 go through to a second leg, they will get put into Game Week 20, which I guess will be a midweek at some point. So one thing to look out for, it looks like it's just a single for everyone, but teams could end up having an extra FA Cup fixture in Game Week 20. And in Game Week 21, again, at the moment, just looks like a single, but the FA Cup fourth round fixtures will be put into that game week as well. So we're going to have a likely double game week for a lot of teams. You'd imagine quite a lot of Premier League teams are going to get through that. So yeah, although it doesn't look like there's that many double game weeks, there will still be a lot of fixtures still to come. But the guys that we know that are going to have a lot of fixtures for certain are Liverpool, are Chelsea and are Fulham because they have those two-leg Carabao Cup semi-finals in there. But in summary, all teams pretty much have 4 fixtures as it stands on the fixture ticker. Liverpool, Fulham, Chelsea all have 6 between Game Week 18 and Game Week 21, but it will change. We're going to go on to the teams that we're going to look to target in this video, and it is quite a lot because the fixtures do look good, and then there's a few teams there with extra fixtures. So I've highlighted here Manchester City, Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea, Brighton, Spurs, West Ham, and then Crystal Palace have made their way into the list because they do have this double game week in Game Week 18. So there's something interesting that you can potentially do there. AFCON and ASIA Cup is coming around soon, so I think we've got just 2 games left to play. So, for example, Mohamed Salah is going to go after that Newcastle game. I think it's been confirmed. And then Son, for example. I'm just using these two because they're probably the most owned players. Son is expected to play his last game in against Bournemouth this weekend. So pretty much just one Premier League game out of players that are going to AFCON or the Asia Cup. So Game Week 18 is likely to be their last fixture for a little while. AFCON runs from the 13th of Jan till the 11th of Feb, and Asia Cup runs from the 12th of Jan to 10th of Feb. So basically the same period of time as well. just to highlight, there is potential to move, like we said, from a double game week Crystal Palace side. If you look at the fixture ticker at the bottom, so Crystal Palace face Brentford at home and then Everton at home, but then have that blank. If you don't have AFCON or Asia Cup players in your teams to sort of take care of next week, you could potentially do a Crystal Palace player, an Elise, an Eze, for a double game week here, and then maybe move them out for the blank onto either a Chelsea player, a Liverpool player, or a Fulham player, and you can get back-to-back double game weeks out of them, or even further in the fixture ticker. But that's something that stands out. But other than that, we will go straight into the players to target from each team. So I'm going to start with Manchester City, who had just the single game week this week because they were busy winning the Club World Cup. So they had a 3-1 win against Everton. Everton obviously took the lead, but Manchester City made their way back, as they often do. Then they had a 4-0 win against Fluminense in the Club World Cup final, with Alvarez scoring twice and Foden scoring once. These two players went on to score in this 3-1 win against Everton as well. Foden got a goal, Alvarez got a goal, and Bernardo Silva got a goal and an assist in this one. Other interesting news is that Haaland wasn't in the squad for this Everton fixture. We thought that maybe he would make it, but he didn't. And then also Fabrizio Romano just put it out a little while ago. Let me just find it. But basically, Haaland won't be making... here we go. Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland and Doku and John Stones will not be available for Manchester City versus Sheffield United, confirms Guardiola. So Haaland, De Bruyne, Doku and Stones are all ruled out of Sheffield United. So a little bit of team news for us there. We don't have to worry about bringing in Haaland yet for this Sheffield United game. And then I guess there'll even be question marks whether or not they'll bring Haaland back to play Huddersfield in the Cup. It doesn't really seem like it'd be something that's worth it unless they want to get him some minutes in his legs for the Newcastle game. So we probably don't have to panic about getting Haaland back in our teams yet, but you might want to think about how you do it. You can probably end up using Salah money or Son money, for example, later on. But that is about it for fitness-wise. They've got Sheffield United game week 18 in a single. They've got Huddersfield in game week 19. In game week 20, they face Newcastle away. And in game week 21, they have Burnley at home. And obviously, they may have FA Cup replays in that time. And they will have an FA Cup fourth round tie, you'd have to imagine. So the fixtures do look good for Manchester City. I'm going to highlight Foden at 5.1 million first. So he grabbed another goal in this game from outside the box. A really great finish as well. He's playing more centrally. And it seems to be helping his attacking returns. 12 points, 3 bonus points, 2 shots on target as well in that Everton game. He's on 8 goals and 7 assists now. And then Pep was really talking him up in those central positions after the game. So if you've been following for a long time, I've had Foden in my side for a long time and I've been really, really happy with him. 33 bonus points, puts him third overall for bonus now. And he started, I know a lot of these Manchester City players, we often say sort of they're a rotation risk and all that sort of stuff, but he started 16 out of 18 Premier League games. And he did play the big chunk of the Champions League and all that as well. So I still think Foden is a brilliant option. Alvarez is someone that went off the boil for a little while, but he seems to have found his form a little bit again. And if Haaland is going to end up being out for a longer period than we'd imagined, at 4 million, he still is a good price. You're also going to have Salah go, Son go, so that's not leaving that many great options up front. Obviously, Ollie Watkins has been great, but it's just had a little bit of a crappy game week. So maybe Alvarez at 4 million could be back. 2 goals in the Club World Cup, although they don't count, look promising. 15 points and a goal from the penalty spot against Everton. So how did he manage to get 15 points? He had 3 bonus and 4 shots on target in this game as well. So really good performance from Alvarez, up to 9 goals and 9 assists. Bernardo Silva, been highlighting him the last couple of weeks, although he's not the most exciting player when it comes to goals and assists. He's only on, I haven't even got it here, goals and assists. Bernardo Silva, 5 goals and 4 assists for the season, so not massive, but got an 11-pointer in this one. But again, we've got Doku confirmed out. De Bruyne's still going to be out. Foden is playing more centrally, so I think that's giving Bernardo Silva pretty much nailed on that right-hand side. So good fixtures coming up. I still think Foden paired with Alvarez or Bernardo Silva could be good for this run. But defenders, this is hard. So they're not really keeping clean sheets at the minute. Their last clean sheet in terms of fantasy football came 10 games ago against Young Boys. They typically kept 2 clean sheets in the Club World Cup. I started to think maybe that could be the start of something. But came straight back and conceded early against Everton. And then John Stones is obviously ruled out now. I think he went off in a protective boot. So that doesn't look great either. You'd like to think Sheffield United, Huddersfield, Burnley, all should have fairly good clean sheet potential, but they just haven't shown it recently. But if I was going to go there, for me it'd be Walker, but I'm not doing it at the minute. On to Liverpool. So I think Liverpool top of the league at the minute. Got a fairly good fixture run coming up and plenty of fixtures as well with this two-legged semi-final in the Carabao Cup. So they've got Newcastle at home in the next game, which Salah will be able to play. They then face Arsenal in the FA Cup away from home. Now, I thought Salah was going to initially be playing this one and then probably leaving after the game to go join up with the squad. But it looks like, I think we saw TalkSport confirm it. I was watching the Dream Team Tonic pod, which I couldn't be on yesterday, but James confirmed it as well, that Salah looks like he's going to be playing his last game against Newcastle, and then they've got a sort of pre-tournament friendly that he will need to be involved in. So it looks like that will be to Arsenal's benefit. And then obviously he's going to miss this run of games, but it is a really good run of games still for Liverpool. Fulham at home, Bournemouth away, Fulham away in that second leg of the Carabao Cup, and then Chelsea at home. So Liverpool looking in good form, and maybe they can keep it up even without Salah. So it's 1-1 draw against Arsenal and a 2-0 win against Burnley. You had Trent Alexander-Arnold got a good assist in that Arsenal game, and Salah got the goal with a 9-pointer. And then in that 2-0 win against Burnley, Darwin Núñez finally got back on the score sheet, and then Diego Jota came off the bench to grab the second goal of the game. Cody Gakpo with an assist, and Luis Diaz with an assist off the bench as well. So Salah, as good as he's been, I think, well, not even I think, you can't just bring him in for that one Newcastle game. So it's no buy for Salah. 16 goals though and 8 assists for the season. He's been fantastic, and as soon as he's back available, we'll want him back in. He's 1 point behind Haaland currently for the top spot in the game. Trent Alexander-Arnold, 5.9 million. Now, someone who I've just recently bought in, and he's been brilliant since I bought him in. Across the last 4 game weeks, he's had 67 points and got his 10th assist of the season last week. So, really good performance from Trent, back to his best, picking up bonus points as well. 11 points in that Burnley match, and 24 bonus points in total for the season. So he's looking really, really good. And Liverpool conceded the least goals in the Premier League at the minute. So looking like a strong defence, as well as him getting these bonus points and attacking returns, there's still a pretty good chance that he could keep clean sheets. So I think Trent, definitely still a buy at this point. He's the 6th highest scoring player in the game, and he's just hitting scores like a midfielder at the minute. So I still think you need to get him in. Alternative attackers, though, while Salah's out. Now, this is a little bit harder because they've still got so many options, and good options too. So there's obviously Cody Gakpo, 3.5 million. He's had back-to-back starts now, and he's on 7 goals and 3 assists. Darwin Núñez at 4.1 million. So just the 1 start this week and got his first goal in 13 matches. So not a very good attacking or goal scoring form at the moment. But he's on 8 goals and 10 assists himself. So 18 attacking returns is still pretty impressive for someone that seems like haven't had the best season. I've got the scores as well up from just the standard Dream Team site here. So obviously Salah's top, but Nunes is on 134 points, which is not bad at all. But he's just so frustrating. And Diaz 3.3 midfield option. Just the 5 goals and 3 assists. He did get an assist against Burnley, but I think overall he's been a little bit disappointing. And then of course Jota at 4 million. 9 goals, 2 assists, but hasn't really been starting games recently. I think he did have a bit of an injury concern. But let me know who you think is probably the best attacking option from Liverpool without Salah there. I'm not entirely sure how they'd line up. Obviously, you can play Darwin and Gakpo through the middle. Jota can play through the middle, but often plays on the left as well. Then you've got Diaz, who primarily just plays off the left. So there is still a little bit of a void on the right-hand side. I'm not quite sure who they will play on the right. You've also got Harvey Elliott there as well, but I don't really think he's a Dream Team option. I'm leaning towards Jota or Nunes myself, but I can't see myself owning Nunes again. But I do think Jota is a good option, and he always does something against Arsenal. So watch this space. I think Jota could end up doing something, and I think he could end up finding his way into my team maybe when Salah goes. But for now, that's all I'm going to say to target for sure. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Gomez may be an option because Tsimikas is now out injured, and that's an annoying one. That's someone I've got to replace. Virgil van Dijk, if you can get there, but he is quite expensive, and I'm just not 100% sure who plays in these FA Cup matches and in these Carabao Cup matches. They've got a big squad and there's a lot of rotation options there. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure I'd go for Gomez or Virgil at the moment. Newcastle, it's all gone a bit wrong for Newcastle at the minute. So just a 1 win in 7 games. They've lost 3 matches in a row now. But despite a lot of injury concerns, they are starting to get a lot of key players back. So things might pick up. They've got Liverpool away from home, game week 18, which is probably the worst time to possibly play them. They're not in good form themselves, and Liverpool in great form. Game week 19, they've got that clash against their rival Sunderland away from home. Then it's Man City in game week 20 and Villa in game week 21. So as fixtures go, this is a very tough run of fixtures for Newcastle. Isak and Wilson, both back fit. Obviously, I took out Isak last week, and he's gone on to do pretty well. He got a 15-pointer in a game where he just scored 1 penalty. But on the new Dream Team rules, he hit 5 shots on target, which you get a point each for those. And he managed 3 bonus points as well. So, bit gutted with how that went, considering Watkins just blanked in 2 matches. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Kieran Trippier has been an interesting one. So, I'm solidly putting Trippier still on the players to target. He's fallen well below his usual standards. He said so himself as well. But he's still scoring well on Dream Team. Dream Team and Trippier just go hand in hand with each other. So 11 points, maximum bonus points. So 5 bonus points and 8 tackles in a 1-0 loss to Luton. The game just works for Trippier. So 11 points, 5 bonus points, 8 tackles in a game where they lost 1-0. And then 4 points, 3 bonus points in a 3-1 loss to Nottingham Forest. He's just broken the game. He's not even just broken this game. He broke last season's Dream Team. Last season's Dream Team, it was constantly, why is he getting star man? Why is he getting a 7 rating in the games where Newcastle might not have done well? But this season, it's why is he scoring bonus points? Why is he getting points? And it's just the way he plays, I think. He's on every set piece. It's the sheer volume of crosses and successful crosses that he puts in. And then he's a high volume tackler. It just all seems to play into his hands. So I still think Trippier is a very good pick. Will he get clean sheets against Liverpool, City and Villa? I'm not convinced, but he probably still will score pretty well. Anthony Gordon, 6 points across 2 games. he's played 90 minutes in both of them as well. So it's just been a little bit of trolling, really, with this Newcastle team and injuries lately. It looked like Gordon was going to be the one that got, or was going to miss time for injury, but he's come back and played 2 lots of 90 minutes. Lucky I kept him in, but he did only get 6 points this week. And then Isak and Wilson, they've been injured at different points of the season. Isak missed the last 2 games in last week's set of games, and then he came back and then got this 15-pointer. So it's been so hard to predict. I'm unhappy with Anthony Gordon in my side at the minute. He's just had a little bit of dip in form despite coming back. Isak and Wilson, I just think you're setting yourself up for disappointment because there's a lot of shared minutes there. Wilson started one, Isak started the other. I think I'd avoid both of them for now, and I think I'd avoid Anthony Gordon still. If you've got him, maybe you keep hold of him, but I've got my eye on some of these players that will have extra fixtures now, and better fixtures than Liverpool, City and Villa. Livramento, I think he's finished as an option, potentially. We've seen their set back 4 turn up now. Livramento didn't start either of the games this game week. And then in the last game, they had Trippier, Botman and Cher, and Dan Burn, which was the power 4 that was keeping them a lot of clean sheets previously. Livramento did come on in both games, but I just think maybe they will revert back to their back 4 to try and keep a bit of solidarity there. But Livramento has been good. Then it's just, do you go for another defender other than Trippier? I don't think you do at the minute. I think it's Trippier or don't bother. And Dubravka, I mean, I've got Dubravka. I put Dubravka in last week. I expected more than what he got. 4 points and 1 point. And now I'm starting to wonder whether I've made a bit of a disaster with Liverpool away, Sunderland away, City at home, and then Villa away. But he is very cheap and he is a good enabler. So it's up to you, but I mean, I am having not second thoughts, but I'm having doubts about putting Dubravka now into my team. If you're enjoying the video so far, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're after extra Dream Team content before the deadline tomorrow, or if you just want to have the extra content after the deadline, the Dream Team Tonic podcast was recorded last night, and it's immediately live to everyone on YouTube and Spotify and all other podcast platforms. Ben, Tony and James were on yesterday's. I was unavailable, had some family round. But yeah, check that one out on YouTube, and we've got a great community. If you're looking for your New Year's resolution to be climbing the rankings in Dream Team and winning your mini leagues, why don't you join the Discord community, the Patreon community? There's a link in the description below. Great community of Dream Team players, and it's certainly helped me improve my rank, and I'm sure a lot of people as well. So do check that out in the link in the description below. Arsenal, you know what? I'm glad that I had people round yesterday and didn't end up watching the Arsenal game, because it looked pretty embarrassing from what I saw in the highlights. Firstly, though, a 1-1 draw against Liverpool, and then a 2-0 loss against West Ham. 2 losses against West Ham now. So we've signed Declan Rice, and they've done us twice. All I can think of is that they were quite shrewd negotiating with us. I think somewhere in Declan Rice's contract, it must have been that we just have to let... We get Declan Rice, but we have to just let them have the win in all games this season, it's looking like. But no, fair play to West Ham. They've done really well. Fixtures: Fulham away from home, Liverpool at home in the FA Cup, Crystal Palace at home, and then Forest away. So the fixtures, apart from that Liverpool FA Cup game, do look pretty good still on paper. The form's a little bit iffy. It seems to be a little bit of a problem with creativity and goal scoring at the minute with Arsenal. But I still think the fixtures do look good. Saka at 6.4 million. He still has to be a great option. He hasn't been at his best for a little while now, but it's 4 games without an attacking return. But even in that West Ham game yesterday, he still scored 8 points in a game where he's not really done much. He's hit the post, he's had 3 shots on target, he's done 4 tackles, and he's walked away with 8 points. When there's weeks where some players are scoring goals and only walking away with 8 points. So I think you've just got to get him in. He's scoring really well when he's not doing anything. When he does then deliver, he does score really well. So 20 attacking returns so far this season, 8 goals and 12 assists. And he's the joint third highest for bonus with 33 points. So I still think, despite questionable form, I still think you have to have Saka. Ødegaard, he's actually looked pretty good recently. 4.9 million though is the stumbling block. He's got 13 points this game week. I still do like him as an option. Doesn't quite have the fixture volume of, say, like a Chelsea midfielder, or if you wanted like a Liverpool Szoboszlai, for example. I think I'd prefer to go for like a Palmer or a Sterling with more games at the moment, but he is still performing well, and he looks to be playing with quite a lot of confidence, so I do think that he will start delivering the points. Martinelli, though, he's been concerning. He's had a bit of a dip in form. I think I'd avoid him for the minute. He looks to be like he's been found out a little bit with his sort of dribbles and take-ons. He's not really had much output. So 2 points in the West Ham game, just the 2 points in the Liverpool game. And also he's had sort of subs around the 60th, 70th minute as well. So that is a little bit concerning. I probably would avoid Martinelli for the moment. And then just with these fixtures looking pretty good, I think Saliba's still a fine hold. I can see clean sheets still in the Fulham, Crystal Palace and possibly Forest game. Not so confident about the Liverpool one though, even if they don't have Salah. Gabriel's looking equally as good. Did get a goal in that Liverpool game. But the guys that I definitely would avoid are White and Zinchenko, just at the moment. Zinchenko got an early sub in this West Ham game because we were chasing, got more attackers on. But he did look poor in that Liverpool game as well. And Ben White still isn't really looking up to his best at the minute. And we don't have any options to rotate them. We don't have a backup left back. We don't really have a backup right back unless you want to bring on Cedric Suarez. So it just looks like they're both blowing at the minute. I'd go for Saliba or Gabriel if I didn't have one. Aston Villa. Their great run came to an end. A disappointing 1-1 draw with Sheffield United. And then a 3-2 loss to Man United after being 2-0 up, which was a bit strange. Not what we expected this week. The fixtures did look good as well. I would have captained... My team update is going to be at the end, but I was going to captain Watkins pretty much the whole way through. I thought he was a standout captain pick. On ffstuff.co.uk, they've got a little pie chart that shows you what percentage of people picked what captain. Watkins was the second highest captain pick with 33% choosing Watkins. I think Salah was the only guy that was ahead of him, and he just really didn't deliver with the armband this week. So he just got 2 points in the first fixture and 3 points in the second fixture, or the other way around, sorry, 3 points against Sheffield United, 2 points against Manchester United, and only registered 1 shot on target across the 2 games. Couldn't have timed it worse. And like I said, I took Isak out for Ollie Watkins. So I just ended up with Watkins 5 points versus Isak's 15, which is pretty crazy. But one thing I've learned from this is that I had Isak. I say I've learned from it. I've made this mistake so many times. But I had Isak through 3 double game weeks where he blanked completely. Take him out, scores 15 points. Bring Watkins in when he's doing well. Does nothing across 2 game weeks. Earlier in the season, I had Son. Blanked a couple of weeks. Take him out. Hits a hat-trick. 20-pointer in the next game. I just think this happens with strikers. And if you're going to pick a big striker, sometimes these hauls just don't come when you're expecting them. And you do have to stick with them for a while. I don't regret taking Isak out, because he did have that injury as well during that period of time. But with Watkins, he's been so good this season. I definitely wouldn't just take him out just because of this 2 games where he's blanked. He's on 11 goals, 9 assists for the season. He has dropped to the 6th highest striker in the game now, which is a bit surprising. But Salah and Son are going away next week. So if you've got a front three like me of Watkins, Salah and Son, it makes sense to just keep Watkins in your side. And I'm sure he'll come good again. Look at this. Burnley, Middlesbrough, Everton, Newcastle. I'm still tipping him to find his form, and I'm going to be keeping him for that run. John McGinn at 3.9 million, 7 goals, 4 assists now for the season. Got another one in that Man United win. Man United loss, sorry. He's the 8th highest midfielder in the game, and he's ahead of the likes of Ødegaard and Bruno Fernandes. So it's just showing on this new dream team. It's not all about attacking returns. He does pretty well for everything. And actually, in that Man United game, I noticed watching that as well, that he does seem to be playing as like almost a second striker, pressing from the front in some games. So he could be another option. Not someone that I'm going to be getting in, but you can't deny he's doing well for points. What I did also notice in the Man United games, it looked like Digne picked up quite a bad injury, hamstring injury I think I've seen. And I could now see Moreno getting a run in the side. He came on as a sub in both matches, in the 74th and in the 50th minute. I think Moreno at 2.6 million. This could be his time to sort of cement that left-back position back again. So watch this space. It could be the start of him getting a run in the squad. Or if you want a bit more safety, Konsa is nailed on every week. He's not had a good week this week. Got the free points against Man United, which included 3 bonus points. So picking up 3 bonus in that game, and then he picked up 1 bonus in the Sheffield United game. Bonus is his game. He's right up there for bonus points this season. Chelsea. Now, Chelsea are interesting at the moment. Very inconsistent with their results, but they got a 2-1 win against Palace in the last game, and then a 2-1 loss against Wolves. In that Wolves game, Sterling and Palmer both picked up their 5th yellow cards. Questionable ones as well. They were just looking for that. They were just looking to get that. Was it Boxing Day off? Happened Christmas Eve, didn't it, that game? So a little bit later. But Palmer's was kicking the ball away, I think, and Sterling's might have even been a dive right at the end of the game. But they've served their suspension now. It's cleared. And they've got a clean slate coming up, and they've got a lot of fixtures coming up. So most teams had 4 on the fixture ticker as it stands, and they have got 6. So they've got Luton away in the early kickoff, game week 18. So we'll get a look at the lineup potentially. Game week 19 then is a double. It's FA Cup and the Carabao Cup first leg. So they face, I think it's Preston and Middlesbrough in game week 19. Game week 20 is Fulham and Middlesbrough. And then game week 21, it's Liverpool. And then it could be another FA Cup game potentially. So, lots of fixtures for Chelsea. Who do we go for? I like Sterling and Palmer the most. I just wanted to have a little look because Sterling's, I think, ahead overall for points. But Palmer seems to be doing better recently. So, on ffstuff.co.uk, they've also got another feature where you can look at player points per game week. And if you're watching on YouTube, I've set the game week from game week 12 to game week 17. So more recent rather than from the start of the season. And Palmer is ahead of Sterling, but only just from game week 12 to game week 17. Palmer's got 44 points in that time, and Sterling's got 38. Now, Sterling is ahead of Palmer across the full season, and he has a lot more bonus points. But actually, when you look from game week 12 to game week 17, Sterling's just got the 2 bonus points, and Palmer also has 2 bonus points. So it seems like Sterling was getting a lot of bonus at the start of the season, but not so much recently. It then breaks it also down. So in the green section, Palmer's got 13 points for shots on target, chance creation, tackles, and Sterling has 11. So Palmer just edges it there. And then all other points, goals, assists, etc. Palmer is still ahead with 29 versus Sterling's 25. So Palmer's looking like the best option. He has had penalties as well, which obviously has contributed to his attacking returns. Nkunku might get the penalties off of Palmer potentially. We could have maybe found out in the last game, but Madueke ended up taking the penalty they won because obviously Palmer was suspended, but then Nkunku had just gone off as a substitute as well, so we didn't get to see whether Nkunku would have stepped up and took that one. So none the wiser on that one, but if it is Sterling versus Palmer, I'd edge it towards Palmer personally. Both have 6 goals, 6 assists. Their points are pretty similar. I just think that Palmer has been a little bit better for point scoring recently, but I do think this is a good time to go for it. And like I mentioned earlier, I'll come on to Crystal Palace, but you could go a Crystal Palace midfielder, maybe an Eze or Elise, and then switch to a Chelsea one in game week 19 potentially. But Luton does look good, but then it does deceive us each time. They do really perform at home, Luton. Petrovic, 2.5 million. Kind of wish I'd gone for him over the Bravka now. Like I said, lots of fixtures here. Luton, Preston, Middlesbrough, Fulham, Middlesbrough, Liverpool. It does look good for clean sheets, even though Chelsea haven't been the best at keeping them so far. And then Gusto as well. I like the look of Gusto at 2 million as an enabler. He could have the extra games. He's their only real sort of attacking defender at the minute, playing on the right. They've got Reece James out. They've got Cucurella out. I don't think Chilwell hasn't been making the bench yet either. So Gusto is their only real attacking defender at the minute on that right-hand side. He got an assist in the Crystal Palace game with 9 points and 3 bonus points. And he also started the game against Wolves. So back-to-back starts for Gusto. He did have a little spell where he wasn't getting the minutes as he came back from injury, but it does look like he is a really good option at just 2 million as well. So you could even have Gusto as your 2 million enabler and get rid of your cheap keeper in Dubravka, I think, who's 1.9 at the minute. So you could end up just having a good keeper and Gusto, or doubling up on Petrovic and Gusto. I think both look like good options. And then Nkunku, 3.8 million. I think it's a wait and see still for me. He's still easing back in. He's still sort of not playing the full 90. He played 71 minutes in the Palace game, and then he came off the bench in the 59th minute to score in the Wolves game. So looking all right. Managed 3 shots on target coming on in the 60th against Wolves, but I just would like to see him playing the big chunk of games, maybe getting back-to-back starts before I bring him in. Spurs. Now, obviously, Spurs will be losing Son to the Asia Cup after the Bournemouth match. They've had a 2-1 win against Everton and then a 4-2 loss yesterday against Brighton. But it was 3 wins on the bounce before that one. And it is a nice-looking fixture run. So Bournemouth at home, Burnley at home, Man United away, and then Brentford at home. So 3 home games in 4. Obviously could have the extra FA Cup fixture, but they are out of the Carabao Cup. So Son, the same as Salah. Game week 18 is probably going to be his last game. He did get an attacking return in both games this week. So he's been doing all right, 9 points. And then yesterday's match, 5 points. So yeah, decent. But you're not going to bring him in just for Bournemouth, I don't think. Doesn't seem to make sense long term. Pedro Porro, though, 3.4 million. I am liking him at the minute. So he's the 4th highest scoring defender on the game. He's behind Trent, Trippier and Saliba, but having played a lot less games. He's got 7 assists, no goals. I actually thought he was better for like shots on target, but actually on ffstuff.co.uk I was looking at Porro, and he has actually only had 4 shots on target, so not as many shots as I expected. Maybe they're just not on target. Average of 6.2 points per game. Trent, for context, is on 6.8, so doing pretty well there for average points. 16 bonus from 18 games, so near enough getting a bonus every game. But while there's no Europe, he looks like a really good option. But the only thing is Spurs haven't been that great for clean sheets. So you are banking on attacking returns, bonus, and he's getting quite a lot of tackle points as well. So does a lot of everything. I am liking the look of him. He's someone I'm seriously considering for my team. Richarlison, 2.8 million. He's playing striker at the minute. He might have penalties when Son goes. But he has had a slight back problem and he's been getting early subs. So he was subbed off in the 63rd and in the 65th in the last 2 matches. 6 goals, 3 assists. I did like the look of him, to be honest, for potentially when Son goes away. I'm just not fully convinced yet. I need to sort of see if these subs are because of his back or if he just can't play 90 minutes, if he's not fit enough to play 90 at the minute. I'd like to see a little bit more before potentially making a move on Richarlison at the minute, especially for the price. I think he's a bit more expensive, but you've even got João Pedro at the minute as a sort of cheap striker who is outscoring him. So at the moment, I think it's a wait and see on Richarlison as well. And then Kulusevski, 3.4 million. I'm also not convinced. 5 goals and 2 assists for the season. Playing more central attacking midfield rather than on the wings. Did get that 15-pointer against Forest, but then just had a 5-pointer and 1 point this week. And that's sort of how I remember him being when I've had him previously. A little bit inconsistent. I'd rather one of these players that ticks along every single week. Notable, maybe Brennan Johnson did get 2 assists, but he's down as a striker on the game, I'm pretty certain. Which is not very appealing as well. Brennan, I'll just double check it. Yeah, down as a striker, 2.4 million. So that's a bit of a shame. You're not going to bring him in as a striker. But that is it for Spurs. West Ham. Back-to-back clean sheets. A 2-0 win against United. A 2-0 win against Arsenal. Very impressive. They just love the bigger games. I had said in the previous episode that I really like the look of Bowen because they do well in these counter-attacking fixtures. And he's had another good week. Goal in that fixture against Manchester United. And then an assist yesterday against Arsenal. He is becoming one of my favourite players on Dream Team, actually. 5.5 million. 13 goals and 5 assists for the season is very impressive. And then just looking back as well, so 16 points for this game week. The game week before, so in a double, he got 17 points. The week before that, 11 points. And the week before that, 13 points. He's hitting double figures regularly across these double game weeks. Really, really impressive Bowen at the minute. One thing to add, Kudus. Final game will be Brighton in game week 18, and then he goes to AFCON. He's been absolutely brilliant. And then Paqueta, rumours that he got injured, or not even rumours, he sort of pulled up in the warm-up, but then he did end up playing the game. People thought he might miss it, but then he had to go off in the 33rd minute. So not sure how serious that Paqueta injury might be, but I would be maybe a little bit concerned. I'm going to keep him anyway with Bowen, but I'm maybe a little bit concerned if they end up losing Kudus and Paqueta from their attack. Maybe that will be a little bit concerning. They've got Brighton, Bristol, Sheffield United and Bournemouth. The fixtures do look good on paper. Areola has been someone that's frustrated across all fantasy formats. People had him in because he's been underpriced on most of the fantasy formats. 1.9 million on Dream Team. But he picked up an injury, picked up a wrist injury, missed a few games. Then he sort of made the bench, but still had sort of strapping on his hand. I think then he came back and played the cup game, but Fabianski was playing the Prem games, which has reversed really from how it has been this season. So a lot of people took him out, and then he was back in this week. Played both Premier League fixtures and kept back-to-back clean sheets unexpectedly against United and Arsenal. So really has trolled people. 8 points in one game and 11 points in the other. So, yeah. I mean, you could put him back in. Nothing wrong with bringing him back in as a cheap keeper, but I definitely think it has stung people in all fantasy formats. James Ward-Prowse added another assist, but otherwise it was quite a low scoring game week. 4 points, and what did he get in the other? 3 points in the other game. The last person I'd say to mention is Emerson at 2.8 million. Back-to-back 10-pointers this week, and he's on 99 points for the season. Very good for just 2.8 million. Now, I've brought the fixture ticker back up on the screen from ffstuff.co.uk. And now I've got Palace, Brighton and United that I'm going to look at. I have put Chelsea in the fixture ticker just so that I can show you the move off of Palace onto Chelsea if you wanted to do that. But I'll start with United. I'm still not interested in any of their players. Garnacho at 2.8 million's had a good week. 14-pointer, 2 goals. Was very close to getting his hat-trick, really. He had one ruled out for offside. But I just don't think I'll be picking him. And then Bruno Fernandes kept up his recent form of being disappointing with 4 points across 2 games again, which is just not good enough for a player that cost you 5.4 million. That's Man U. That's Man U out of the way. Good run though. Nottingham Forest, Wigan, Tottenham, Wolves, but you just don't know what you're going to get at the moment. Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace and Everton, I mentioned, are the only teams that double in game week 18. Originally, I had my eye on Eze for this run of games outside of Europe. Obviously, if you can remember back, he was really, really good for bonus at the start of the season. I didn't have him at any point, and I really did feel like I was missing out. 3.5 million. He's got 23 bonus points from 15 games, which, again, is great. But he's been eased back in since injury. I think he's had 2 injuries in a short period of time. He came back and then got re-injured, so they've been really careful with him. But in that time, Elise has been fantastic. 3.5 million. And he's just been stealing the show. And there is an argument potentially for captaining him in game week 18 if it works for your team. So he got 14 points against Chelsea, which was a goal and 3 bonus points, and a few extras. Shots on target, tackles, etc. Then against Brighton, he got 8 points with an assist and 3 bonus. And then against Manchester City, goal and 3 bonus. So he's hit 3 bonus points in each of his last 3 games. While Eze is still kind of just getting eased back in, not playing all of the minutes. It looks like Elise is sort of the guy at the minute. But blanks in game week 19. So 2 home games in game week 18. Brentford and Everton. Now, if you look at his average points, Elise, he is averaging 8.3 for the season, or 11.3 across his last 3. And he's only played 8 matches and managed 20 bonus points from 8 matches. So that's why there could be an argument that you bring him in for 2 games and then captain him, and you're going to get double points in 2 games versus someone else where you'd get double points in just the 1. So if you don't have to solve a Salah or a Son problem, there probably isn't going to be a Haaland problem for next week. Now he's ruled out. It doesn't look like he's going to be back as soon as it was first thought. But if you don't have lots of transfers already planned in, like me, for example, I've got Son and Salah to pick up next week or take out next week. If I bought in Elise this week for me, I'll probably be stuck with him for the blank, which isn't ideal. But if you haven't got that issue, you could have him for these first 2 fixtures in 18 and then maybe move him on to a Palmer in 19. So you've got double game weeks there and then double game weeks from Chelsea. Or you could just captain him and like you're basically, instead of getting the 2 fixtures, you're getting the points for almost 4 fixtures where it's doubled, and you kind of can let it offset it and keep him for the blank if you wanted to. I don't think I'd captain him myself, but I can see the argument for it. If he's getting 8 points average, or even 11 points for his last 3. If you get that doubled for 2 fixtures, that is going to be a really big score. But I just don't quite think it works for my team. But if you think it works for your team, that could be a good option. They were talking about it yesterday on the Dream Team Tonic podcast, which I had to catch up with this morning, and I really did like that option when they were speaking about it. So Michael Elise from Crystal Palace could be a good pick. Brighton came back last night. They've had a little bit of trouble recently, but they were back with that win against Spurs yesterday. And Pascal Gross, although they don't quite have the fixtures like in terms of volume, West Ham away, Stoke away, Wolves home, Luton home. I think they were struggling because of all the extra games in Europe. They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe now that there's not so many games going on, they will be back to their best. It definitely looked like that against Spurs. Pascal Gross has looked really good. He's 4.3, so he's not cheap. And at times he's played in defence, filling in. He's played in sort of central defence midfield, but he does seem to be playing a bit more attacking at the moment, more like a sort of number 10-ish position. Matoma's out injured. They've got Adingra out injured, so Gross is doing a lot of the attacking work as well. He's on set pieces. I think he might be the penalty taker if João Pedro's not on the pitch, because João Pedro has been an absolute pen merchant recently. But Gross has looked good. Average points of 5.8, 7.3 in his last 3, and 23 bonus points for the season. It's very impressive. I do like the look of Pascal Gross. Just isn't that exciting, but I do think he's a solid player. Stupinian, he is back. Made it to the bench for this game. Made the bench for the Spurs match. And what we know with Stupinian is that he's all action, all attack. Brighton don't keep clean sheets this season, but Estupinian is not really a typical defender, and he showed it. He came on at half time, scored an absolute worldie from outside the box, an absolute screamer. So do check that one out if you haven't seen it already. He's just 3 million. He was averaging 4.2 points per game. And he will eventually have European football back. So I do think that he's going to be a good option coming up. I'll probably wait and see for now on, but he's someone who I've loved having on Dream Team. So you're probably not going to get clean sheet points from him, but he does really get attacking returns. And in João Pedro, 3.4 million. He is somehow the 3rd highest scoring striker on the game with 151 points. Let's see what players that puts him ahead of. Strikers. So there's Haaland, there's Salah, and then we've got João Pedro, and then we've got Alvarez, Son, and Watkins, and Nunez. So João Pedro, 3rd highest scoring striker on the game. 151 points. He got a 20-pointer against Spurs for 2 goals and 1 assist. Both goals from the penalty spot. And of his 13 goals this season, 8 of them have been penalties. 2 assists as well. So I started with him in my very first team this season. But you would have had to have kept your patience with him, kept him through all the early subs, kept him through all the substitutions. But he's the 3rd highest scoring striker on the game, João Pedro. Right, on to my team update. So, by the way, if you have enjoyed the video so far, please do leave a like. But team update, I took out Dubravka and... I brought in Dubravka and Watkins this week for Kelleher and Isak. So obviously Kelleher hasn't been playing since Alisson returned, so I had to do something there. I brought in Dubravka. I was tempted by Petrovic, but I went Dubravka for the cheaper option. I am sort of regretting it now. I kind of wish I'd gone for Petrovic. And then I took out Isak for Watkins. Isak, I kept him through sort of 3 double game weeks. He blanked in 2 of them and he was injured for the other 1. And then, so Watkins had been on form. So I brought Watkins back in. Watkins with just the 5 points. Isak got, I think, 15. But Dubravka, 5 points versus no points for Kelleher. I have to take that as a win. 119 points for the game week, 1,898 for the season. And I think I did fall out of the top 100 to about 122nd, I think it was. Now I'm sat exactly at 100th position overall. So happy with that around the sort of Christmas mark. But I have used all my boosters. So I used the Max Captain booster this week. So this is the debatable one. So I think a lot of people will look at this as sort of being a foul for the Max Captain, because Salah was the most capped player, got 13 points, double it, 26. My Max Captain ended up on Bowen with 32, so you could look at it as I've benefited plus 6 points over Salah. But I wasn't going to pick Salah. I would have picked Watkins. Watkins had my armband for pretty much the whole time. And then a bit of doubt crept in, because I thought, you know what, Son's got a good fixture as well. Salah had the tough fixture against Arsenal, which I couldn't see him hauling in. And then the second fixture. But then I thought Bowen has got 2 games. Saka's got 2 games. Trent's got 2 games. Either of them players can haul as well. It actually turned out that Watkins was the guy that didn't haul. So if I had put the armband on Watkins, which I would have done if I hadn't played this, I would have ended up with 10 points. The armband has gone to Bowen, who's ended up with 32 points. At times it was on Trent. I think it was on Son at one point as well. So 32 points for my captain. Although you might not look at that as a win. I'm looking at this as I got 32 points rather than 10 points. So in my eyes, I think the Max Captain has worked out okay. From back to front, so I've got Dubravka got me 5 points. Tsimikas just the 2 and went off injured. That's going to be a long-term injury I need to solve. Saliba with just the 4 points. Trent smashed it, 15 points. Gordon a little bit disappointing with 6. Saka 10 points, consistent. Bowen with the armband, 32 on the Max Captain. Foden with 12. Watkins massive disappointment with 5. Salah with 13 is good, and Son with 15 is good. So I think overall I'm pretty happy with that week. I'm pretty happy with how the booster turned out as well. Immediate problems though, Tsimikas has to be solved. And if I look at the team, I've got Salah and Son, who the following week are going to go off to their international tournaments. And then Gordon, I've been a little bit underwhelmed by. And then Dubravka also, I'm starting to have second thoughts on. So this is how my team looks with their fixtures for next week. Obviously, Dubravka's got Liverpool, which isn't filling me with much hope at the minute. Tsimikas has got to go. Saliba's got Fulham. Trent's got Newcastle. Gordon's got Liverpool. Saka's fixture looks fine, Fulham. Bowen looks fine for Brighton. Foden looks brilliant for Sheffield United. And then, if I'm honest, the front three looks decent as well. Watkins, Burnley, Salah, Newcastle, who aren't defending well, and then Son, Bournemouth at home. I think this looks like a good week for my strikers. Again, don't know which one might deliver, but at the moment, I've got the armband on Salah. I just think with Newcastle's defence being questionable and Salah looking on fire at the minute still, and Liverpool looking really good in attack, I think the armband should be on Salah. I could put it on Son as well, but I just feel like Salah is more consistent than Son. And then even Watkins against Burnley is a good option, but there's no chance I'm sticking the armband on him after his antics last week with 1 shot on target across 2 games. So yeah, looking at what moves to make, I'm fairly set, I think, on doing Tsimikas to Porro. He's a really, really good pick. He's a really, really good option. And obviously Tsimikas has got to go. But the only sort of downside I'm looking at is that Porro does only just have these single games. Whereas if I did go for maybe like a Chelsea player or a Liverpool player, I could look to get extra fixtures. Gusto is on my mind. as a cheaper option, but Porro does seem like the better option. So I've just got a little bit of a debate in my mind whether I go for Porro, maybe the better pick, or the volume of fixtures with Gusto in that role. And then the second move is like if I do go for Dubravka out for Petrovic, but I don't think there's that much to gain from it. I might get a few extra fixtures, and Petrovic does seem to be playing in the cup games. Luton, Preston, Middlesbrough, Fulham, Middlesbrough look good. Or do I take Gordon out, who just plays the once a week? He's looked like he's been struggling a little bit. He's got tough fixtures with Liverpool, I think City, Villa coming up. Do I just go Gordon to an upside player like a Palmer, like a Sterling? There is the Elise option and captaining him, but I just think that's going to leave me struggling to get Salah and Son out and then having to keep him through the blank. So I don't really like that either. I think it's going to be Tsimikas to Porro, or maybe Tsimikas to Gusto, and then I think it's going to be Gordon out to a Palmer or a Sterling, but I'm leaning towards Palmer as the better pick at the minute. Whatever I do decide to go for, as you can see on the screen, I've taken Tsimikas out for Porro at the minute. If I take Gordon out, I've got 8.3 in the bank, and I've got plenty to get Haaland back in. So, yeah, that's what my thoughts are at the minute. Porro or Gusto in for Tsimikas, and then I think it's probably going to be Gordon out for Palmer, unless I do decide to go for Petrovic instead of Dubravka. But I think Palmer and those extra fixtures in midfield seem to be the way I'm leaning at the minute. But yeah, that is everything for this episode. Let me know how you got on this week. Let me know how you're getting on overall. If you've got any questions, I'll get back to you on there. Sorry for the late video, but I've been enjoying Christmas, as I hope you all have been as well. Thank you very much for watching. If you want a bit of extra content, do check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast. Link in the description below, and I'll put the videos somewhere around here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.